Hello there. My name is Yudi, and this is the Yudi Factor, a program that understands that knowledge is power. And therefore, week after week, we discuss issues and empower you with information to enable you make informed choices, especially when you factor in something you have heard on the Yudi Factor into your situation. I'm sure in the recent past you've heard about branding, brand ambassadors, premium brand, generic, and services and products. Today we're going to be talking about branding. Why is it so important, and what is the role of branding in our private and corporate lives? How do you become a brand, sustain the brand? And what exactly are corporate organizations looking for in a brand? So we'll empower you with that information. And to do that is Dr. Ken Onyalikpe, the MD CEO, All Seasons Media Limited, member of the Troika Group, and President MIPAN, that's the Media Independent Practitioners Association of Nigeria. He'll be empowering us with information on how you can become a brand and how this program, the Yudi Factor, can become a brand, a premium brand. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. You're welcome back. Dr. Ken, I'm honored.
Yeah, good to meet you again.
I'm humbled that you found time in your busy schedule to come and empower us with this information. We've heard so much about branding.
Yeah.
We've heard so much about products being premium brand, products being just generic, some just being ordinary. So branding plays very important role in everyday life. So before we go into the role of branding, I want to ask you, what is branding? What is branding? How do you sustain a brand? What are the qualities of a brand? What do corporate organizations look for to say this is a brand? Sorry, double-barrel question. Start from any point.
Yes, really and truly, I always approach this topic of brand and branding with a lot of enthusiasm.
Yes.
Because for me, it's a way of life, and it's what I have done for the last 25 years.
No, I'm in the right corner.
Yeah. Why I say so, I approach it with excitement, is that brand is everything. If you get the concept of branding and brand right, you would have succeeded in every aspect of life endeavor. Because what is a brand really? It's quite different from a product or a generic service. You know, a product is something you can produce, put in the marketplace. It can elicit demand and satisfy want. It ends. But a brand is a composite of values coupled together to meet customer expectation and perception. It is a bundle of promise. Okay. That's what a brand is. It's a bundle of promise. It's a promise kept. So when people hear branding, it's not like as complicated as you think, that you must go to the end of the universe to build a brand. No. It's basically a culture and a strategy on delivering things with ruthless consistency. So it's a promise kept, so to say.
So can I say the Yudi Factor has kept a promise to empower you with information? So I think I'm a brand. I believe I'm a brand. All right. So what are the strategies to becoming a brand? And then how do you sustain?
Yeah, let's even look at, by keeping it simple as much as possible and within the framework of 20 minutes, like you said. Yeah. How do you couple a brand together? Okay. The need to build a brand is so important, because if you build a brand, you have built a business. The mistake we make in this part of the world is that people build businesses and then now try to brand the businesses. No, you have to build a brand and then you build business. And the means for which you need to build a brand shouldn't come from your profit. It should come, it's a defense budget. So the budget for advertising or branding must not come from profit. It's a factor of production in itself. So the way you're putting money aside for land, for labor, for production, all those things, factors of production, then you must factor how much you want to set aside to build your brand. Because if you build a successful brand, you've built a business. But having said that, a brand has a DNA.
Okay.
Then the DNA is housed by architecture. The architecture is now housed by personality. Then you communicate that personality and the deliverables. So you must build it like that. Like it's like a human DNA. Then it has its architecture, it has its personality, and you now list it with communication. So on the surface, what people do is that they communicate the deliverables of their product, and they say they've built a brand. There's no brand there. Brand is about promise kept and kept with ruthless consistency.
Promise kept and kept with ruthless consistency. I remember that. Yeah. What role then does branding have in our corporate and private lives? Yeah. What is the role of branding? A promise kept and kept with ruthless consistency. Yeah. I like that.
Yeah, if you're going to build a brand, first and foremost, advertising, which is a mix in the brand building process, because advertising alone does not build brand. Neither does public relations alone build brand, or digital marketing, like people do these days and say they've built brand, or event management. You need 360-degree application, which is integrated marketing communications, and then you need to understand the brand building process so that you build the brand essence, the brand equity, the brand personality in the image of the consumer. You don't build what you like. Okay. Research and data must have told you this is what the consumer wants. And then you build a brand in the image of the consumer, so there's a natural magnetic force. You know, that way you spend less and get to the destination you want to go less. But brands cannot all be the same. Every brand has its own personality. And in the journey, every step of the way, is it the culture of the business? Is it the structure of the business? Is it the way you recruit? Is it the way you disengage? Is it the way you relate with third party? Third party could mean your customer, your bank, your supplier, everybody that makes contact with that brand. You must define, there must be a book by the CEO of the company to interpret this. So when you are recruiting, for example, you must recruit to that effect. You don't recruit and begin now to train people. So you have to get the brand book all well done and the journey book. So you begin to do those things, the culture, the personality, the recruitment, the association, brand affinity, and it stays like that with ruthless consistency. So that by the time you say brand Z is this, there is certain expectations that come with it. And those expectations don't change from market to market. Because I don't want to name brands, but the brands you know in this market that you love, especially those of them that have adoration and loyalty, big-time loyalty, they are the same anywhere in the world you find them. Whether it's in Malaysia, it's in Sudan, it's in Kigali, it's in America, the brand is the same. So brands don't undulate. They don't change depending on the environment. A lot of people build brands in Nigeria, and you see within a company that has 18 branches, this branch is different. What it offers is different. The other branch is different. What it offers is different.
So there must be consistency.
The business application is different depending on the environment. No, that is not a brand. Brand, you must that DNA must be there inside every contact.
No matter where it is.
No matter where it is, the behavioral pattern, the culture, and every other thing that goes with it. Same thing you just asked of the human being. When a child is born, after the 8th day, depending on the tradition, they name the child. That is the brand process has started. If you say your child is going to be solo...
Doctor, hold that thought. Hold that thought. Yeah. Don't go anywhere. Search yourself. What are you doing? Are you working towards becoming a brand, or are you a brand already, based on what Dr. Ken has said? Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back, and take 60 seconds to put your thoughts together. You're welcome back. So, what did you come up with? Difficult work, right? All right, Dr. Ken. Now, we were talking about a child that is born.
Yeah, I want to relate it to families now and personal branding. You know, when you name a child, I mean, when you have a child, without a name, that you cannot relate with the child. There are no special, particular expectations. But by the time you give a child a name, you have to think through that name. What does it mean to you? And how would it help this child in his or her journey to life? So when you say a child, for example, is Solomon, what resonates when Solomon is called? Is it wisdom? Then you have to begin to equip the child with those things that will help the child deliver wisdom on a consistent basis. It doesn't make sense when a child is Solomon and is daft. isn't it? So there's dissonance there. So if you're going to name a business or you're going to name a person, the brand journey has started. The choice of environment where the person is going to grow up, the choice of school, the choice of a career the person is going to pursue, those things are all well tailored, and you now begin to execute it with authority. So brand has, it's such a big, complicated thing that you have to understand how you couple it. And once you couple it, it can outlive you. In fact, if you build a good brand, you've built a business that will outlive you. If you look at all the international brands you have that are members of our household today, the brands, when you build a good brand, it becomes a member of a household. The international brands we have would outlive you. They live 200 years, 400 years, and they don't have boundaries. That kind of thing. So if you're going to build a personal brand, the principles are basically the same. The only thing is that you're applying this to yourself, but it requires a lot of discipline. And it's not something you do staccato. You don't start, you stop, you start, you stop. If you do that, you are crossbreeding. Imagine if you crossbreed different genotypes of a dog.
In marketing a brand, what exactly do corporate organizations look for?
Yeah. First and foremost, anything that will help build the brand equity would attract a big brand. But anything that will disparage or erode the brand equity, the person will have to distance himself. And that is why you see sometimes it's difficult to find sponsorship for certain properties, because the would-be sponsor is asking himself, would this association, we call it brand association, which comes through affinity, would it help build my brand equity? If it's not going to help build my brand equity, if it's going to bring extra problem for me that I will now require public relations to manage, I don't have the budget for that. So why erode my brand? So I distance myself from it. Don't forget the simple balance. If you tell me who your friend is, I tell you who you are. So it's like that with brand associations. So there must be affinity. Don't forget that today brands are not sold, they are bought. What do I mean by that? If an educated housewife goes to do the shopping, she would have had a list and say, I want to buy A, B, C, D. Yes. The decision has been made in her mind. So she goes to the shelf and pick those things into her basket. So if you are waiting to build your brand in the marketplace, you have missed the point, because brand should be built in the consumer's mind, so that those goods and services the consumer need would have been bought, not sold.
Now, let's go to marketing.
Yes.
Because what is marketing? Because you have to market this brand.
Yeah.
So what is marketing?
I'm happy you asked that question, because it is very important that we clarify the difference between sales and marketing. Okay. Because a lot of people mix them up completely, and it can be a tragedy. Okay. Sales is when you exchange goods and services for profit. Okay. The transaction stops. But marketing is when you create value or fill a gap in need. So if you are out there, you have a complimentary card that says, I'm in marketing. Are you really marketing? What value have you created? Or what gap have you seen in need that you have filled? So there are different things. That's why you see multinationals have sales division and marketing division. The marketing division builds the brand. They nurture the brand. They babysit it. And then make sure that the consumers are connected in such a way that they trigger trial purchase. It's the trial purchase that will trigger adoption. It is adoption that will probably you build using the brand building process to trigger loyalty, which guarantees you repeat purchases. So if you don't get that, your warehouse will be full. The company is doing well, it's producing, the warehouse is full, but somebody needs to evacuate that warehouse, and it is the sales department that will evacuate it using the sales channels to evacuate it. And once it's evacuated, the production people again will come back to you and say, how many do you want us to produce? You produce. It is the marketing people that will ensure that that trial purchase is triggered again by consumer. So it's such a cycle that is endless. And how do you guarantee that it's endless? Consumer would have to not only love that brand, but die for it. And that's the adoration we are talking about. It's not enough today to like your brand, because competition out there is so stiff that we're not talking of share of market anymore. We're talking of share of throat. And what we mean by share of throat is that if you have 1,000 naira today, you have a choice to buy a recharge card of 150 or a soft drink of 150. So if you sell soft drink and you think recharge card is not your competition, you've lost the plot, because the money's disposable incomes we are competing for is the same, and it's not going to change. And today, even the price of PMS have come into the mix, because beer costs exactly the amount a liter of fuel will cost today in Nigeria. So do you want a bottle of beer or you want another 1 liter of PMS? So these are the things we must study. So branding, marketing, communication, and advertising is not just about mass communication anymore. It is huge because you have economics in it. You have psychology in it, which deals with psychographics, demographics, psycho-cybernetics, consumer behavior, trial purchase, inducement. So then you have history, because the way you market or build a brand, say in the northern part of Nigeria, is different completely the way you build a brand, say in the east or western part of Nigeria, because culture is very of essence, and you have to follow the culture of the people. Even in the UK, for example, the way you build to the Scot is different from the way you build to an Englishman or a Welsh. So you can understand how complicated this journey is, and
really,
it's not something that needs to be taken lightly at all.
Hold that thought. Don't go anywhere. Yeah. Quite complicated. We'll be right back. You're welcome back. It's not as complicated as you think if you put your mind to it. Yeah. Now, with the social media out there,
yeah,
you know, Twitter, Facebook, and all that, television, radio, how does this help?
It's just for that complicates life for everybody. but in that complication, you find the excitement, because today the only man 35 and above who will survive is a man who is digitally switched on. If you are not going to be digitally switched on as we speak today, you will be a 21st century literate. It means you're a dinosaur and you're about to die. You know, as simple as that. But having said that, let me not scare people.
Yes.
Television and traditional media will never die. What has happened now with digitalization is that television has been reduced to a small screen, and which is the phone you carry about, the handset you carry about. That's your television going forward. So digital, yes, will play a part, and in every aspect of our life now, you will see it interfering. And the earlier you innovate to reach that level, talking about innovation, because it's the key now to survival and personal and corporate development. There will be 3 stakeholders going forward in life. The first stakeholder will be the content provider, which is the innovator. The second one will be the shareholder, and the third one would be the investor. If you as a man do not belong to any of these 3, you're an investor, you are not a shareholder, and you don't provide content, then just like in the Nigerian Nollywood ecosystem, you're a waka pass. You know, because you're not contributing anything. So now coming to media is so crucial to the brand building process, because creating the communication for a brand, yes, it's very important, it's very difficult. Sometimes it takes, when we did, I have to mention name now, when we did the Gulda Ultimate Search, we shot it in 5 different countries in the world, including Nigeria, Spain, South Africa, the United States, and it cost £2 million to shoot that commercial. So it's not cheap. But having said that, it still represents only about 25% or, no, not 25, about 15% of the general budget you require for communication. Because 85% goes into media deployment. So media in itself is not as simple as you see, because media, you have to understand the landscape. You have to understand the platforms available to you, what those platforms return in terms of viewership, in terms of listenership, in terms of age group, in terms of resonance, day part analysis. And before, when I started this journey, we didn't have more than 4 TV stations in Nigeria. As we speak, we have over 248 with 2 national networks. Radio, we have over 400 licenses, but only about half of that is in operation. So tell me how the hell you can plan media if you had 10 billion budget to buy media across these platforms. So when a brand spends 10 billion, it looks like a lot of money, and that's the average. A telco, for example, in Nigeria will spend on above the line advertising a year. But I can tell you it's still a drop in the ocean, because if you are going to buy to cover the Southwest, and you cover a national campaign that will include the Northeast, Northwest, how much money do you know? And how can you plan media so that it is not only sourcing, but so targeted that you know that I'm hitting the bullseye and there's a return on investment on every eye or ear that I capture. So media planning has become sophisticated. A lot of investment have gone in there. Data is available now. Don't let any guy fool you to say Nigeria don't have data. We have data, but it's expensive. Yeah, and it's premium because if you have it, it gives you expertise. And expertise and innovation is the only way to go forward now.
I must confess that it looks like branding sounds like a lot of hard work.
Yeah, it is. It is science and art. And that's why those of us who are tangentially doing it, because are you really an expert? I don't believe that there's an expert on anything today, because if you're an expert on what was. If you are going to be an expert on what would be, then it means that innovation must replace experience. So there's no expert on what will be, because nobody knows what will be. But you can be expert on what was. So anybody who is expert now is expert on what was. So you need to innovate. Are you going to build your brand? It doesn't matter how small. Are you selling a recharge card? Are you putting a TV program together? Are you putting a telco company together? Is it a barbing shop? You have to build that shop with the consumer in mind. It must be clear to you that this my consumer is a man of this age group, of this disposable income. These are his likes. These are his dislikes. Once you tick those boxes, then you build that barber shop. That way, you see that kind of person would naturally be attracted. So that pricing may not be an issue if you are building a premium brand, because even the higher a cost for a premium brand, the better, because premiumness is supposed to help the brand differentiate. Because rich people really don't want to share. So it helps brands to differentiate and put them apart. So if you build a premium brand, then you can introduce swagger pricing. But if you are not going to have a premium brand on your laps, how can you talk about swagger pricing?
Like in Nigeria, where we have brands, and like you said when we're talking, that a lot of the international brands have lasted for years.
Yeah, the brand is supposed to make you perpetuate your business and outlive you.
In this climate that we have in Nigeria, is it possible
to build a brand? To
build a brand that would last like the ones we have abroad?
Of course. I mean, there are indigenous Nigerian brands that are very good already. We have a couple of banks, maybe one indigenous Nigerian bank, I think, just one out of 27 indigenous.
What can we take away? What can we, from the top of our head, what can we take away that will help us on the way forward? I mean, somebody listening, what can we take away?
Just always remember that a brand is a promise. It's a bundle of benefit and a promise kept. And it has to be kept and delivered with ruthless consistency.
Ruthless consistency.
Yeah. It's a bundle of benefits.
Normally when a lot of companies have brand ambassadors. Yes. How do you go about picking your brand ambassador?
Yeah, don't forget that I said that if all brands have their personality, and that personality does not change, come rain, come shine. You know, it doesn't matter what the weather of the year is. Once a brand assumes a personality, that is what it is. So for brands to allow you to associate, because they need the affinity anyway, they need to use your platform to engage their would-be customer, to recruit new ones or maintain the ones they have. Then, for me to talk to you as an brand ambassador, your qualities, whether it is lifestyle, whether it is virtues, whether it's integrity level, whatever it is, must reflect the properties and personality and virtues of this brand. They must come in tandem.
Is that why when abroad, when most of those celebrities who get involved and become brand ambassadors?
Once there is a crisis of integrity, the brands will snap immediately, because that's not what they represent. They snap immediately. It doesn't matter who you are. And you may never be able to rebuild that brand. If brand is difficult to build as it is, but if brand begins to happen, don't forget that it's a promise kept. So once you break promise, then where is the place for integrity? So that's all what it is. It's a bundle of benefits, yes. And don't forget that it carries huge emotional benefit. Brands don't really talk about the physical deliverables of a product. A physical deliverable of a product is that a detergent washes very well and it makes my shirt white. That is physical. But if you say a car makes me feel different because I own it, or because the people, or because there's a difference between a vehicle takes me from point A to B. That's a vehicle. But the moment you begin to say, I want to buy a Mercedes-Benz, it's not a vehicle you're buying.
Or a Maybach.
There's a feeling that you have because you own it, and there's a feeling about you around your neighbors because you own it. That feel is called emotional benefit, and that's why it costs 3 times more. So that is the cost of emotional benefit.
Dr. Ken, thanks.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you very, very much. I've been empowered with information, and we'll come to you from time to time to come and empower us more, because I'm sure there'll be fallout of questions from this particular topic. So we'll invite you again to come and clarify some issues. And I'm honored. Thank you so very much.
Pleasure.
Thank you. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. You're welcome back. Now you know what it is to become a premium brand. Even if you don't remember anything, just remember that being a brand is a promise kept, and kept with ruthless consistency. Well, I believe that this will help you on your way forward, and we keep our promises on this program to always empower you with information. And today, you've been empowered. So go out there and become a premium brand. Until I come your way again next week, my name is Yudi, and this is My Factor. Goodbye.